same color hair, almost similar facial features. I look so much like him, or he looks so much like me.
So the 3-second delay was noted in his report.
It was noted.
Did he apply the 3 seconds in his analysis?
He did not.
Did he indicate in his report the reason that he did not apply the 3-second correction?
He did not.
You can change all you want, but now we have an expert that is going to explain your BS. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Buckle Up, It's the Law. Folks, today we are going to cover Matthew Disorga, a defense witness, the first defense witness. Everyone has been joking that looks like me, so this is going to feel like a little bit of a breaking of the fourth wall in a way, because I made the joke that I didn't know I was going to be testifying on Friday in the Karen Reed case, and here I am in Matthew Disorga's format. We got the same color hair, almost similar facial features. I find it kind of interesting that I look so much like him, or he looks so much like me. I don't know. Everyone's been joking about it, so without further ado, I bring you the first defense witness, the DUI guy Larry Foreman doppelganger, Matthew Disorga, in May 2025 in the Karen Reed case. Let's go.
What is your opinion about best practices with regard to trying to create this gap for purposes of coming to an opinion?
And we're going to do Jackson's direct examination, because remember, everything is flipped. Jackson's direct examination first. That's going to go on for about, I'd say, just under half an hour. And then we're going to do a brief 12-minute cross by Hank Brennan. So buckle up, folks.
For an analysis.
So because we don't know whether or not this specifically would apply to Ms. Reed's vehicle, the best way to conduct that analysis would be to do the entire thing with the key switch adjustment at 3 seconds. Because if we're going to use a value, 3 is the most reasonable one, because that's the one shown in testing. But we should also do the entire analysis without it, in case we feel that that's the most appropriate. So in fact, that's what I do and will show is I ran the analysis both ways, with and without, to be as conservative as possible.
Did your review of Mr. Burgess's report indicate that he ran the analysis both ways?
He did not.
Let's go to slide 7. What are we looking at here?
This is an excerpt from Mr. Burgess's original report, his page 28 and his page, there's a screenshot also from his page 30 at the bottom. And this is where he states in that report that when they were doing the testing with the exemplar, they observed across 4 different key-on cycles this 3-second difference. So what I mean by that is they had a video camera in the car that had a timer on it. And so in the video, you can see the button pressed. So in their testing, for example, they pressed the button at 21:48:05, and that's sort of nailed down. When they went back and downloaded the data from the infotainment, the key-on was logged in the infotainment as 21:48:08. So there's the 3 seconds. That's where they're getting that from, and that's what he states highlighted in red there. It's a little hard to read, but it basically says the average across 4 runs was 3 seconds.
The 3-second delay, was that actually in his report?
This is the only point in the report it's mentioned.
I guess what I'm asking, it was an inartful question. The portion to the left, is that his report or your report?
That is his report. Everything on the left-hand side of this slide comes from Mr. Burgess's report.
So the 3-second delay was noted in his report?
It was noted.
Did he apply the 3 seconds in his analysis?
He did not.
Did he indicate in his report why he ignored
Not surprised.
the 3-second delay?
He did not.
Sustained as to that question.
I'll rephrase it.
Strike the answer.
Did he indicate in his report the reason that he did not apply the 3-second correction?
He did not.
When you do apply the 3-second correction, what do you come up with as it relates to the 26 seconds from the end of the recording?
So the positive 26-second window, if we only apply the 3-second key-on, grows to positive 29 seconds.
If you applied the same 3 seconds to the trigger event time, now what does the gap?
That gap would grow to a positive 34 seconds.
Between the trigger event and what?
The phone lock.
In your opinion, was it best practice to not account for that 3-second delay between the on switch and the data coming on?
Sustained, ask you to.
What, in your opinion, would be the best practice in terms of this 3 seconds that was noted in the exemplar vehicle?
The best practice would be to run the analysis with that adjustment included and without that adjustment included. Because like I stated, without testing of an additional vehicle, we really don't know if the 3 seconds is just a specific behavior of that exemplar or if it's representative of all Lexuses of this type.
Let's go to slide 8, please.
I don't know what it is, but I like this
Tell us
guy.
what we're looking at in this slide.
So now we're going to get into the next adjustments.
It's like looking in the
That
mirror.
first adjustment we just talked about was really a vehicle-to-vehicle adjustment. We haven't talked about the phone yet. We're going to get into the phone now and talk about aligning that. But we had to get through the internal adjustment that has to get done first. Now we're going to look on the subsequent slides here at all of the different ways the Aperture reports compared the vehicle to Mr. O'Keefe's phone.
Is there any additional adjustment that you believe should be made?
The Aperture reports lay out 2 methodologies for adjusting. There is a methodology based on phone calls, and there's a methodology based on the 3-point term
And where did you get that information from?
from the Aperture reports.
In Mr. Burgess's original report, I'm differentiating, the January report, which did he use to determine his determination of the clock skew?
In his initial January report, he never actually takes the calculation to the end by applying the differences in times to the calculated time for 1162-2, but he does do the math, which I'll show, for the differences on these phone calls.
In terms of Dr. Welcher's report, did he identify a GPS point of 154 at all?
Yes.
How did he describe that GPS data point?
He describes in his initial PowerPoint slides as point 154 aligning with the end of vehicle event 1162-1, talking about a different event now. This is the 3-point turn event. So he uses that as an anchor point.
And that anchor point, you said, was the end of the text stream event, or the end of the recording of that text stream event.
Correct. The Aperture reports consistently reference everything from the end of the events.
Let's go to slide 9, please. What are we looking at here?
On the left is an excerpt of page 33 from Mr. Burgess's initial report. And what he shows here is he has identified 7 call logs that exist both in the infotainment from Ms. Reed's Lexus and in Mr. O'Keefe's phone. He puts them in a table form. Then he actually goes on and calculates the difference between those 2 times. So that's what I meant by he sort of does the math. He makes my job a little easier, and the numbers are already there. He just never applies these to any of the times. So that's where I step in and say, if I take that 3rd column that he lays out, those are in seconds. If I apply those seconds, that adjustment to 12:31:43, where do we end up with John's interaction window in those times?
What did you conclude in terms of finishing the work?
Sure. I did all of them. And so I highlight on this particular slide.
Wait a minute. Finishing the work. Are you saying that Aperture did an incomplete job? Be still, my heart. I did not see that coming for $400,000. You would imagine that they'd be doing a little bit of a better job.
Highlighted the very first one he has in here. In that case, he identified that Mr. O'Keefe's phone was 2 seconds slow relative to the infotainment system. So if we apply only that adjustment, then John's interaction window becomes positive 28 seconds.
Did Mr. Burgess apply all of the potential offsets?
He didn't apply any of the offsets. He calculated all of them, but he didn't apply any of them.
Did you ultimately apply all of the offsets?
Yes, I did.
And what did you determine?
Regardless of which offset you apply, John's interaction window remains positive. The number changes, but it remains positive.
Let's take a look at those one at a time if we can. Let's have the next slide.
So on this slide, I just took the other end of the spectrum. There's a large range in values in this table. He doesn't actually, Mr. Burgess doesn't show the sign conventions on here, but actually—
What do you mean sign conventions?
Sign conventions, he doesn't show when he calculates the difference whether it's positive or negative. All the numbers in the table don't have a sign, don't have a plus or minus in front of them, but there's an implication. Some of them are plus, some of them are minus. So the first one that we just looked at showed we had 2 seconds slow. There's another value in here that's on the other end of that. It shows that Mr. O'Keefe's phone is 21 seconds fast now relative to the infotainment. So that's the largest value in the table we could take that would bring John's interaction window down now. And so if we apply just that adjustment, John's interaction window becomes a positive 5.
Take a look at slide 11, if we could, please. What are we looking at here?
So I've shifted now from the phone calls, and now we're going to talk about the 3-point turn alignment. And the 3-point turn alignment is first presented in Dr. Welcher's slide from his presentation here. And in this, he doesn't say it explicitly, but he provides some math on the screen, which is a little hard to read. But he puts some math on the screen that shows he's aligning this 0.154 from Mr. O'Keefe's phone to the end of event 1162-1. This is the prior event. This is a 3-point turn. And so he aligns, he says this is basically how you align it, and he doesn't do the math. Again, he lays out that he says a 19.2 second difference. I actually just adjusted that to 20, which is the most conservative way to interpret that. I don't think we have the accuracy here to talk about tenths of a second. Nevertheless, I just rounded that up to 20, and when we apply that 20 seconds to our event 1162-2, then John's interaction window becomes positive 6. That's just applying this. We're not combining anything. We're just applying the difference shown in this slide.
And that positive interaction window, is that calculated based on information directly from Dr. Welcher's report?
Yes.
Let's go to slide 12. What are we looking at here? What is this table?
This is a table I made. We've talked about a lot of different approaches to how these clocks can be aligned and a lot of different variables. So I tried to summarize them in one table, put them all together, because some of them we can combine. We can combine the key on with either a phone call or a 3-point turn, but we can't combine, for example, a 3-point turn and a phone call. That's not valid. So I put all the possible combinations, all of them, with, without key switch, phone calls, and 0.154 on one table, and I calculated John's interaction window for all valid combinations from the aperture reports. And when we do that, the result is that regardless of what adjustment we make, all of the numbers are positive, meaning regardless of what adjustment we make, the phone lock event always occurs after the end of event 1162-2.
Did Mr. Burgess, in your review of his report in January 2025, did he ever undertake all possible offset calculations?
No.
In his May...
Because it wouldn't have helped the Commonwealth. Basically, all of this shows, in a nutshell, folks, is that Aperture is a hired gun, liar for hire. They're not interested in the truth, and this guy's here to tell you where they're wrong, how they're wrong, why they're wrong, and why their report is inaccurate.
2025 report. Did he undertake all possible offset calculations?
No.
What is your opinion in terms of best practices regarding calculations of this sort?
I think if there's sufficient data, if there's testing or research or literature that in a specific case supports there is a best path or a best method, then we should use that. In this case, I don't think there is a best practice. There isn't any literature I'm aware of that would specify exactly the best path to align all of these. So in the absence of any external data to support one path, the most valid approach is look at all of them as a whole and then
And that's called the scientific method. At the end of the day, you gather all possible alternatives and then you come to a general conclusion. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? Welcher and Burgess? Hello? Anyone? Bueller? Anyone? Don't forget to like this video, comment below, subscribe to the channel. Let's go.
And draw the conclusion from the totality of that data, rather than cherry picking a single point.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you testify to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty whether all potential offsets that were described in Aperture's original report, January of 2025, result in a positive interaction window?
Yes.
And what is that opinion?
Regardless of what adjustment or combination of adjustments we make from the original reports, John's interaction window remains positive.
Does the positive interaction window mean the lock event occurred after or before the text stream event?
After.
It means the lock event occurs after the end of the text stream event, 1162-2.
And that means he was still alive after she hit him.
You've already indicated that you received a second report, May of 2025, correct?
That's correct.
In that report, is there the same clock skew alignment or a different clock skew alignment that Mr. Burgess now undertakes?
Mr. Burgess undertakes a different alignment in that report.
Let's go to slide 13.
Oh, really? What did he do in May? Tell us.
Describe what we're looking at in this slide.
So what I have here on the left is a screenshot of page 42 from Mr. Burgess's supplemental report. And so now he's done two things new here. He's identified a new method for aligning the data based on the 3-point turn. So now he's kind of following where Dr. Welcher started, but he's approaching it a little differently. And secondly, he is now calculating the actual time. He's doing the difference calculation and he's applying that to the time. So now he's taking the calculation all the way through, which is a little different from the prior reports. And so when he does that, he makes my job really easy because I didn't have to do really any math now. He comes up that there is a range now. So prior to this point, the original report by Mr. Burgess and Dr. Welcher reports all used discrete points in time, right? They sought to find an event that occurs at a singular second and another event at a singular second and align based on that. This is a little bit of a departure from that approach. Mr. Burgess is now using a range of times, a range of uncertainty. He basically assesses that the 3-point turn data from the phone and the 3-point turn data in 1162-1 cannot be precisely aligned down to a single point. Rather, they overlap in this range of seconds. And so he then says that that range must be applied. So now we have to apply a range. And what we end up with is 9 possible values. So it kind of looks like one conclusion, but really there's 9 conclusions
Holy
on
crap.
this slide. And so if we just applying the math he has in the supplemental report, John's interaction window now has a range of 9 possible values.
So Burgess went from, okay, we think it's that, to actually it could be 9 other possibilities of this, or this. I think that's 9. Whatever.
And that range spans from +5 now to -3. So we have 5 positive values. We have 1 value that's 0, and the 0 would mean it's simultaneous. And then we have 3 negative values.
Does Mr. Burgess indicate in his report that any one of those values is more likely than any of the other values?
He does not provide any data or analysis to support one point
Wow.
being preferential over
Wow. It just made him up. He's just like,
Are there more or fewer positive results in his analysis than negative?
There are more positive numbers in that range of 9 than there are negative numbers.
Does Mr. Burgess'
Unbelievable.
new data indicate anything about Dr. Welcher's analysis about the GPS data point 154 being at the end of the 3-point turn?
He opines in that aligning the 3-point turn on a singular point is not, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't know the exact way he states it, but not the preferred method.
Is Mr. Burgess's analysis consistent or inconsistent with Mr. Welcher's determination that GPS point 154 was at the end of the text stream event?
Objection.
Sustained.
Does Mr. Burgess, in his report, indicate whether he agrees or disagrees with Dr. Welcher's analysis?
I don't remember specifically.
In your opinion, I asked you about Mr. Burgess's report. Now I'm going to ask you about your opinion. In your opinion, is this new offset any more likely or reasonable than any other offsets previously proposed by Mr. Burgess?
I don't think it is more or less likely. I think it is a valid approach, certainly. And so I think the results from the additional analysis should be included with the analysis of all of the results so far.
And none of those results are more or less likely than any of the others, correct?
Sustained.
Are any of the results, in your opinion, to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, are any of the results any more or less likely than any of the others?
It's my opinion they're all equally weighted.
Oh, so basically I see what he's doing, Jackson, for the defense. Basically, they're trying to say that, look, you can change all you want. You can change the numbers, you can create a range, you can create other alternative possible universes, but now we have an expert that is going to explain your BS and basically say that all of these possibilities are all possible. There is no absolutely this one happened over this one or this one happened over that one. It's just a range of possibilities, and we will never know the answer because John is dead and he cannot testify. And even if he was still alive, first of all, we wouldn't be having a murder trial, obviously. But secondly, even if it was like an attempted murder trial or something like that, he may not even have a memory of it. You know what I mean? Like, let's say if the Alberts didn't beat him to death, if he had still been alive and maybe hospitalized and coming back to or whatever, and he testified as a witness, wouldn't that be nice if he was still alive? But yeah, he could have told us, where he was and how he was getting there and blah, 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 or whatever. So anyway, just throwing it out there. This is good. This is really good stuff. Good job, Doppelganger Larry.
Mr. Burgess account for the 3-second offset that we talked about earlier in his May 2025 report, his new report?
I did not see any mention of that in his supplemental report, and certainly the 3 seconds isn't present in his math. I don't see it there.
Let's go on to slide 14, please. Describe what we're looking at here in this table.
This is very similar to the table we looked at previously, where I look at all possible combinations. Now, however, I just have a lot more data points to show, so I've had to break the table into two tables. So we're going to look at this, and then we'll look at slide 15 next, which is the second table. I just couldn't cram 30 lines onto one slide.
Let's move to the next slide then. Is this a continuation of the
second half? So think of these as a singular table. I just had to split them up. If we head back to slide 14, we'll start there. So this slide, I'm not accounting for the key on, and that's the main difference between my two tables. Table 1, I'm not accounting for the 3-second key on. In table 2, I am.
When you say key on, you're talking about that 3-second delay.
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
But again, I want to make sure we're thinking about this as a singular table because that's where we'll draw our conclusions from. So the first lines of the table, we've already seen those. Those were in my original table. I haven't changed those. That's the same math that's been there. All I did was I added the 9 points now from Mr. Burgess's supplemental report using the range he shows. And so now we can see if we include that, now we get some positive numbers for John's interaction window. We get that 0. And again, the 0 would imply that the end of event 1162-2 is happening exactly at the same second as the phone lock. So he's
basically massaging his report, Burgess is massaging his report in order to fit the Commonwealth's narrative better. That's all he's trying to do. And he's still failing because every single one of these events is just as likely to happen as any other one based on a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, as Mr. Disorga has just testified a few minutes ago.
I'm not on one side or the other, so I think it should be thought of as separate. And then we have 3 negative values, which would imply that phone lock occurs before the end of 1162-2.
And did you already mention the one that was simultaneous?
When John's interaction window is 0, correct?
0.
That would imply simultaneity.
This 14. Let's move to 15. Now, this is
Same.
the continuation of that. Mentally, we'll just continue that same table?
Correct.
Okay.
Just a continuation. Imagine in your mind is just rows 16 to 30.
Okay.
And it's the same thing, same format, except for now we're just adding in that key on adjustment because, again, I think the analysis should be run with and without it. And so now when we run this with the key on adjustment, we get 14 of these 15 are John's interaction window is positive to various degrees, and one of them, it's 0, again, simultaneous, and there are no negative values with this adjustment.
Can we go to the next slide, 16, please? What are we looking at here?
This is the summary, then, of that table, kind of a verbal summary of the giant 30-line table now. And if we look at all of the possibilities from all of the Aperture reports collectively, then we can draw some pretty straightforward conclusions. 25 of those 30 possibilities result in interaction with the O'Keefe phone after the end of event 1162-2. Looking at all the possibilities, 2 of the 30 result in interaction where it's simultaneous. That's the zeros, present in both tables. And then looking at all 30, 3 of the 30 result in interaction with the phone before the end of event 1162-2.
Do you have an opinion as to which of these particular offsets that you've described, these 30 possibilities, should be applied in this case?
No.
Why is that?
Each of the approaches have their own individual strengths, and each of them have their own individual weaknesses. And there is not really any published literature, any research, or any testing done that I'm aware of that would suggest one really stands head and shoulders above another one of the methods. So I think the most fair way to present it is to look at, again, if we combine everything together, then we can draw some conclusions like this in terms of how many of the total result in one outcome or another.
Is every data point that we're looking at and that you've been talking about, are these all drawn directly from Aperture's reports?
That's correct. I have not proposed any methods for aligning the clocks myself. All of the methods that comprise these 30 are from the Aperture reports themselves.
Based on your analysis of the Aperture, or your review of the Aperture analysis, is there any ability to say to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty that the text stream event occurred after the last physical interaction with John O'Keefe's phone?
Yes, there would be three out of the 30 possibilities would result in that.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty that it did happen after the text stream event?
Sustained.
Ask it differently, Jackson. You got this.
Of the 30, what's the percentage of possible events that occurred, possible scenarios, I should say, wherein the text stream event occurred after the last interaction with John's phone? What's the percentage?
That's sustained.
10%.
You said it's 3 out of 30, correct?
Yes,
Is that 10%?
that is 10%.
Yeah,
Too late.
Sustained and it's stricken.
Too late.
What percentage is 3? Just do basic math for me. What is the percentage between 3 and 30?
Sustained.
What? I can't believe it. Just his face was just too good. Good job, Doppelganger Larry. Pat on the back. All right, let's see what Brennan has to say.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir. Sir, are you trying to offer an opinion suggesting that Miss Reed's Lexus never hit John O'Keefe on January 29, 2022?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Is that what you're doing?
Is that your opinion?
No, sir.
Are you offering an opinion that Miss Reed's Lexus never got in a collision before?
The way I stated it was none of the prior events were triggered by a collision.
What I'm asking you, are you offering an opinion that Miss Reed's Lexus never got into a collision before January 29, 2022, or on that day?
No.
So when you were talking about collisions to the jury, you weren't making any suggestion that that Lexus was not in a collision, are you?
I think you threw a double negative in there. Can you just clarify what you
can.
meant? Yeah.
You are not suggesting to this jury that Miss Reed's Lexus did not ever get in a collision before?
No.
Okay. You're just saying that there's no data on the text string to suggest a collision.
Specifically, none of the events were triggered by a collision. That's
Text stream data can be triggered by a number of different things other than a collision, isn't that true?
correct.
And in fact, when you talk about text stream data, you know that text stream data does not record a collision. You know that.
Collision is not one of the triggers. That's correct.
Right. So when you were saying it wasn't triggered by a collision, it's never going to be triggered by a collision ever on text stream data.
Not the collision in and of itself, correct?
Right. So there's other things that will trigger text stream data,
Correct.
like sudden acceleration.
The only acceleration trigger that I'm aware of on TextStream is if there's a large acceleration during what Lexus calls a PCS, or a pre-collision safety event. But a large acceleration on its own, I do not believe is one of the triggers.
Are you sure you know a lot about text stream data?
Yes.
Sustained.
Do you know a lot about text stream data?
Yes.
And you're saying that if a car accelerates over 30%, in and of itself wouldn't initiate a trigger?
I'm not sure I understand.
You just said pre-collision is the only time sudden acceleration, from your perspective, would cause a triggering event. Now, I'm asking you,
I'm allowing this.
if someone accelerated Miss Reed's Lexus at over 30% acceleration, would that cause a triggering event?
I am not sure what you mean by 30% acceleration.
Accelerator, 30%.
Accelerator pedal.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of triggers. There's a number of ways that these VCH events can be triggered based on the accelerator pedal angle. I think, is that, yeah.
And what is the percentage from your experience that would create a triggering event?
There's various. Toyota, Lexus calls it high, medium to high is what they put it.
Do you have a number? Do you know the actual data on what percent pressing the accelerator on the same Lexus as Miss Reed's would create a triggering event? Do you know?
Off the top of my head, I don't know the exact percentage down to this percentage point, no.
There is something different than the text stream data. That's the EDR data, correct?
Yes.
You would not expect, it would be abnormal for the EDR to register data based on a side swipe between a 6,000-pound Lexus and a 216-pound person, wouldn't it?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
That would be abnormal to register that data into the EDR, wouldn't it?
I don't know if I would use the word abnormal, but I would state it that there's a minimum threshold to record in the EDR, and a pedestrian impact generally wouldn't meet that.
I'm sorry.
A pedestrian impact generally wouldn't meet that. But I don't want to make a blanket statement as if it's always the case.
You're saying it would meet that?
Would not.
Would not. And a side swipe or a clip has less force and impact than a head-on collision, depending on the speed, correct?
Generally, yes.
When you are discussing the triggering event, that is the moment that something registers to the car to capture data in the text stream, correct?
Correct.
So if I was to suggest 30% of depressing the accelerator pedal would cause a triggering event, would the triggering event be when it reaches 30%?
Yes.
The event data captures potentially part of an event, doesn't it?
I think we're into semantics a little bit, and I think it depends on what you mean by event. Because
Exactly.
previously we'd been talking about an event as the data, but event can mean a lot of other things.
If an event's only 3 seconds long and 10 seconds of data is captured, then the data will capture more than the event, correct?
Correct.
If the event is longer, 15 seconds, 20, 25 seconds, and the data is only captured for 10, the text stream data only captures part of the event.
Correct.
Fair to say?
Very fair.
So when you're looking at the data, it doesn't tell you about the entire event, correct?
The data only tells us about the window of time the data captures. There's no way to know beyond that from the data.
All of your equations
Logical.
and pluses and minuses and graphs you're talking about deal with the 10-second text stream data that was captured, correct?
They deal with event 1162.2, right, and the 10 seconds it's comprised of. Actually, they really just deal with the end of the event. That's what everything in the Aperture reports reference.
Fair enough. But it doesn't deal with anything that could potentially happen after those 10 seconds, does it?
No.
Or anything before?
No, it does not.
The triggering event is spot in the middle. It captures 5 seconds before, 5 seconds after.
Approximately 5 seconds. It's not exact.
And you would have to look elsewhere for evidence to know what might have happened before.
Correct.
And you'd have to look elsewhere for evidence to see or determine what happened after.
Yes.
Do you know at the end of this triggering event, that 10-second window of data, do you know what happened with the defendant's Lexus after that 10-second of data?
No,
You have no idea, right?
I don't.
I want to just ask you some questions about your background and then leading into this case, if I could. You have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree.
That's correct.
You've worked for...
Did you fabricate those, Mr. Larry Doppelganger? Brandon's got nothing.
your company for some time.
Coming up on 13 years next month. Correct.
You've advanced through the company.
Yes.
You presently are the director of engineering.
Yes.
Are you ACTAR certified?
No.
What is ACTAR?
ACTAR is a body that basically offers a certification in accident reconstruction.
Do you offer services as an accident reconstructionist?
Sometimes.
And you have been hired and come into court and offer opinions as an accident reconstructionist?
In the singular time I've testified in court, it was not specifically for accident reconstruction, it was data analysis.
You continue your education and you go to a number of different trainings and seminars as well as teach, correct?
Regularly.
And when you regularly go to continuing education, you have quite a bit of continuing education that you've been through, haven't you?
Sorry?
You've been through quite a bit of continuing education.
Yes.
You focus as part of your specialty on EDRs, don't you?
That's correct.
Event data recorders.
Correct.
In fact, when you promote your services, that's one of your real specialty, isn't it?
Correct.
And it's something that not only are you schooled on and you go through continuing education, you're well published, aren't you?
That's correct.
And in your publications, you speak primarily about EDR type information.
Yes.
And that's something you are well skilled in, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, what is Brennan doing? He's just solidifying this guy as an expert in his field. Does he have a point? Is he going to try and, like, jab this guy? I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it.
Now, forensics or data forensics is a wide field, isn't it?
It is.
And you can do some things or many things in it, but oftentimes people specialize in parts of data forensics, don't they?
Generally, yes.
Well, speaking of you, you specialize in EDRs, true?
Yes.
There is a difference in different subspecialties, isn't there?
In general,
Oh, yes.
yes.
Okay. Are cell phones, is that a subspecialty in digital forensics?
Yes.
Is that something you're a specialist in?
No.
iPhones, are you a specialist in iPhones?
No.
Have you ever taken any specific training on mobile forensics?
No.
Have you ever written any papers on mobile forensics?
No.
Hey, have you ever promoted yourself of having any type of subspecialty as an expert in mobile forensics?
Never.
In any of your continuing education, and you have a vast amount, have you ever taken any classes or seminars in mobile forensics?
No.
Have you ever taken any class or study about variances between infotainment systems and mobile forensics?
Classes? No.
Have you ever attended any seminars on variances relative to mobile forensics?
No.
Have you ever testified about variances in mobile forensics before you testified in this court today?
No.
For the record, I see what Brendan's trying to do now. So he's like, you're an expert in the field, you know accident reconstruction, but when it comes to cell phones, you are not adept. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because he was chosen by the defense to analyze Aperture's data that is already in there and to compare and contrast and explain. So everything Brendan is asking is completely irrelevant, meaningless, and fruitless.
Have you ever published anything to do with variances in mobile forensics?
No.
In this case, you had an opportunity to review a number of reports from Dr. Judd Welcher, yes?
Yes.
And Mr. Shannon Burgess?
Correct.
In reviewing those reports, you've offered your opinions and analysis. Did you ever engage in actually any efforts or study in this case to obtain data?
Could you maybe clarify what specifically you're asking?
Yes. Did you ever yourself, not watch someone else do it, did you ever download or obtain data in this case?
No.
Did you ever test Miss Reed's car?
No.
Did you ever get an exemplar vehicle to run any tests
I did not.
Did you ever do any actual testing in this case?
No.
And so your role is to look at other people's work and
Yeah.
offer opinions and criticisms, basically.
Yes.
And provide some clarity to the work, but generally, yes.
Clarity for who? Who asked you
For
to
the
provide
jury.
clarity?
My clients in this case,
You what?
Mr. Jackson,
Right, okay.
my client.
Did you ever speak to me?
No.
As an expert, when you analyze data, whether you actively got it yourself or not, do you ever give an opinion in paper called a report? You ever write a report?
Yes.
And you've seen reports in this case that you've looked at, correct?
Correct.
A number of reports by Mr. Burgess,
Correct.
report by Dr. Welcher,
Also correct.
reports that you're critiquing, right?
Correct.
Did you see Ian Whiffin's reports?
It did not.
How about Jessica Hyde? Did you see her reports?
I did not.
You were asked to consider information from Mr. Whiffin's report.
No.
Well, you were asked to assume that the last user interaction on John O'Keefe's cell phone was 12/32/09.
That was stated in
Aperture.
Dr. Welcher's report,
Yeah.
so I started my analysis at that level.
Yeah.
So none of the information did you actually personally go and vet or analyze or make any determinations
He doesn't need
about?
to.
You're just critiquing written reports.
Correct.
Well, as an expert coming into court and testifying and having opinions, you put together a PowerPoint, didn't you?
Yes.
Why didn't you ever put together a report to share the basis of your opinions and the process you went through to arrive at your opinions before you came into court?
He doesn't have to. What?
Primarily, I wasn't asked to,
Yeah.
so I didn't do it. I wouldn't commission work without being asked to do it. And number two, the extent of my work beyond building the PowerPoint was just basic addition, just adding numbers together that already existed in
Yeah.
the Aperture reports. So there wasn't a tremendous amount of complexity to what I engaged in.
What
Yeah.
about your work product and your calculations? Did you do all this in your head, or did you type it out and go through a computer program? How did you do it?
I used a calculator for most of it, and the tables in my PowerPoint were generated in Excel, which has some calculation capabilities.
Were you ever
I love how Brennan is trying to find like a gotcha moment, like Alessi did to Burgess and like they did to Welcher. Brennan is desperately seeking a gotcha moment with Disorgo, and he can't find it. He just can't find it.
asked not to write a report?
No.
You had provided an initial PowerPoint,
Yes.
and then you received information from Mr. Burgess,
Yes.
and then you added new slides to your PowerPoint.
That's correct.
Mr. Burgess's report was May 8th.
Yes.
You provided your PowerPoint on May 25th.
Correct.
Did it take you that long for the calculations between when you got the report and May 25th to put together the new presentation?
No, it didn't.
Why did you wait until May 25th to provide the new information?
That's when I was asked to do it.
Oh my God. What an embarrassment. What an embarrassment. He has nothing. Brendan has nothing. He just makes himself like anytime he thinks he's got something, he raises his voice, and then you realize it's just an empty him yelling. And it's hilarious. I can't get enough of it. I can't get enough of Brendan fumbling. Well, as of this video, this catches us up to Friday, May 30th. In the case, of course, this is premiering on Monday, June 2nd. And so there obviously has been some testimony today that I will review and will premiere on my channel in the coming days. But folks, we're officially all caught up. As of the recording of this video, we're 100% caught up to the trial, and I will continue releasing the Brian Albert content that I have in the hopper. Don't forget that I do have a surprise on Thursday, so tune in to Melanie Little's channel, and you will see the surprise on Thursday, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.